Okay, in this video, we're going to talk about self compassion. Um, and that just means showing kindness to yourself, accepting yourself for who you are, imperfections and all. And so just kind of understanding that everybody has things that they love about themselves and things they don't like about themselves, that doesn't make them any less great of a person. Um, and it's showing yourself compassion for where you are. Like if you feel like you're not your best self, then that's fine. Acknowledge that, okay, I'm still going to I'm still going to treat myself with care and kindness, regardless to where I'm at, because it doesn't mean you're giving up on your growth or self improvement. Instead, it's just kind of understanding that you're a work in progress. You have strengths, you have weaknesses, and it's okay to just kind of admit that those two things can be true at one time. And it's also my experience that when you show yourself compassion, those weaknesses or opportunities for growth is what I like to call them, will sometimes, it'll go a lot better in regards to change if you show yourself that compassion, right? And so you probably show compassion to other people without giving it a second thought. um, if your best friend was to come and tell you that she did something wrong, and I use an example in a previous video of this kind of compassion, there's just no way you would say, okay, you're the worst person I ever met. Like, you suck. Why would you come here and tell me that? You, even if you disagree with what your friend did, like, you would be honest, but the honesty would have a certain level of gentleness with it. It would have the compassion that we sometimes don't show ourselves. So, and so I'll just give you a tangible example. So just kind of imagine your best friend just went through a breakup and they tell you the story and you listen from start to finish. Your friend isn't perfect, but they deserve to be happy. You reassure them that they'll get through this and they're a catch. They'll be okay. You don't judge the friend. You don't tell them they're not worthy or they need change. You show your friend compassion, right? And whatever that friend wants to do, like if they want to, eat some ice cream and commiserate that night, if they want to go out dancing, if they just want to stay, in the room and just chill out because they need that time and attention, you'll do that for them without a question. And so, for many of us, it's easy to show the compassion to other people, family, friends, strangers, even TV characters. I show a lot of compassion to TV characters sometimes with kindness and understanding, again, despite their flaws. And so, in my head, there's no difference between those people. Those animals than you. Like, you deserve the same kind of compassion, but we'll get to that later. So, and what happens too, like the compassion that you show is to other people, sometimes you, if you think about what you do to yourself, you're really critical and unforgiving. You hold yourself to a standard that you would never demand from others, and it makes it a struggle for you to see yourself as sometimes as a good person, as a worthwhile person, a person that's good enough. um, and there is really just kind of, there's not some trick, but there's not some trick for you to just kind of change your mind about yourself. And so you have to actively work on practicing positivity, practicing compassion and kindness towards yourself, right? So, when you practice self compassion, that means treating yourself warmly, gently, and fairly. It's about having an attitude of acceptance towards yourself rather than judgment, right? And treating yourself accordingly. So, again, just understanding that even in your flaws, you can still show yourself compassion. So, imagine receiving some constructive criticism from your boss and coming from or a teacher or one of your parents. And so, coming from a place of judgment, you'll only hear the negative and tell yourself, I'm an idiot. I can't do anything right. Coming from a place of fairness and acceptance, you'll hear the whole message, the whole messaging will change, right? And you can tell yourself, there are definitely things that I can work on, but I'm doing a good job overall, right? And it's just, again, acknowledging that, um, excuse me, acknowledging that, okay, I didn't do the best I could in this moment. I didn't maximize this opportunity. And I'm trying to use words that are just kind of positive communication. It may be a hit or miss because sometimes positive communication when explaining these examples are difficult. But if I miss, catch me and change it to a positive communication. I also think I'm going to do a separate video on that because I think that positive communication works very well with self compassion. Um, so, self compassionate people believe that they are good, well meaning, and competent, right? When they make a mistake at work, it's just that, a single mistake. A single mistake doesn't mean I'm a horrible person. People who are not self compassionate often assume the worst about themselves. A mistake at work is viewed as something much bigger, such as a personal failing. And for the people who are not self compassionate and have anxiety, that mistake will spiral into, oh my goodness, they're going to fire me. Oh my goodness, I'm not good enough. Oh my goodness, I'm always ruining things, right? So when you're critical and judgmental of yourself, you're more likely to experience unhappiness, insecurity, and anxiety. And when you treat yourself fairly, you're better able to manage uncomfortable feelings. Um, um, so having a fair attitude towards yourself. And another example is, I may have said the wrong thing, I'll get it right next time, versus I may have said the wrong thing, I'm the worst person ever, right? Because you're human, you're going to make mistakes. And that's one of the things you need to tell yourself. I made a mistake. I'm only human. It happens. It's the same kind of compassion you would give a friend or a child that made a mistake. And sometimes you have to challenge your negative thinking also, right? So if your brain is telling you you're the worst, well, how am I the worst? What are some good things that I did in the past week or the past month that just kind of counteracts the idea that I am the worst person? Because there's not too many worst. I mean, you're just not the worst. There's room for growth and development. So many of us have ideas about how, I mean, who we should be and how we should be. Person might believe that they have to be strong and brave and outgoing. A mother may believe she always has to put her needs last. For many of us, not matching these ideals feel like a flaw. So the example of, you feel like you should be the best kind of mother. You should. Well, I'm not saying this is the best kind of mother, but that's the idea you have in your head. Like everything, you should come last always. Well, when you come last and you don't treat yourself well, you're not going to be the kind of mother you think you'll be to your kids. Like you'll be tired, you'll be irritable. You need coping strategies. You need ways to feel better in the moment, to decompress your parasympathetic nervous system, to feel like a balanced human. You need time. But again, we'll get to that later. So in reality, humans aren't so simple, right? While men are strong and brave and outgoing, others are shy, emotional, and cautious. While some mothers do put their needs last, others value their career as much as their family lives. It's about creating a balance that feels good to you and being compassionate if your choice to do something differently than the majority of people is different, then just kind of accept that and say, I'm okay, right? I'm okay rather with doing things my way. So people who are self-compassionate accept themselves for who they are rather than who they should be. Not only that, but they take pride in their unique characteristics. So just what I explained previously. And a self-compassionate man, as an example, who is emotional, might view himself as being deeply connected to others rather than having a weakness. And I can tell you honestly, I deal with a lot of men who feel like they're weak when they show an emotional side of themselves. So yeah, so I feel like a lot of men again just kind of struggle with that idea of being emotional as a weakness. And it takes a lot of time to just kind of process through that. And for men to just kind of understand this emotional side of myself is going to be a better thing for me so that I won't feel just kind of bottled up. And just stunted, right? So self acceptance doesn't mean not, it doesn't mean loving every little thing about yourself or believing you're perfect. It means accepting yourself for who you are rather than who you're not. So self acceptance is just, it isn't about gender roles. It includes personality, interests, sexuality, religion, abilities, appearance, and anything else that makes you just kind of doubt who you are or make you struggle with who yourself. So accepting yourself looks like if you decide to be a working mother, then just view yourself as a good role model or recognize how you provide for the family, that you're highly motivated, and just, have compassion when it comes to like those judgments you have of yourself. Like, okay, well, you're not a good mother because you decided to work versus staying home. Well, no, I decided to work because this makes me feel good. This makes me feel better to be and I'm not saying anything against women who stay at home because I think that's a very hard job, but I think there should be no comparison. I think you should decide what's good for you and just live your life out that way and be okay with that. I think it's the comparing yourself to others, excuse me, that causes great difficulty in our lives. And this has been horrible, a big problem since social media hasn't been introduced. There's so many people out here that are just kind of not satisfied with themselves because scrolling through social media, you see these highlight reels of people's lives, and then you start to feel self conscious and you start to feel bad about your choices. But if you have that compassion, you can kick it in gear and say, you know what? I'm great. I'm good. Like I'm great. I'm not I'm not a perfect person, but I'm good where I am and I like me. I like where I'm going to. I like who I'm growing to become. And so just reminding yourself of those things, right? And so it just affects everything. So think about someone with straight hair, then they'll look and see something on social media about somebody with curly hair, and it's like, oh, I wish I had curly hair. No, I'm gonna rock this straight hair. I'm gonna find some styles that I like. I'm gonna live this straight hair out loud and be okay with it. And then if I want some curls for a day, then I can just do what I need to do to get curls for a day. And again, if that doesn't happen, then that's fine. I'm gonna rock this straight hair like it's the best straight hair ever. um, Take care of yourself rather than denying what you need or overindulging. So in and I'll get to this into this a little bit more, but like when you deny yourself the things that you need, like rest and relaxation or a moment to yourself to just kind of decompress and again relax, it's just not good for you. You begin to just do too much, to overindulge, to distract, to avoid. So, when life gets busy, it's important to look out for your own health and happiness and take care of your needs, right? This means feeding yourself, getting enough sleep, taking time for fun and relaxation or whatever you need. And so, feeding yourself, I mentioned that because that's very important. I had to just kind of I'm a big person for entertainment, and if you come to my house and let's say Mexican is on the menu, because I'm such a foodie, like I'm not going to buy chips out of the store for the dips. The dip, I'm going to make the chips. I'm going to cut up my tortilla chips, put them in the grease and cook them and sprinkle, like, this little blend of seasonings that I do. I will make homemade juices. I mean, the whole nine. You're going to feel like, and not that I can authentically do so, but my best, my best version of honoring Mexican dishes. I am going to put it out there on the table for you and have all the experiences, right? And I thought about it one day, like I do this for guests all the time. Like my guest room, it looks like a hotel room because I want people to be so comfortable. But sometimes when I'm so busy, and this was years ago, I had to learn to not do this, but sometimes when I'm so busy, I'm standing up in my counter eating probably the worst thing that I can find because I just need something quick to put in my body. And one day I just realized like that, I'm not going to treat myself like that. I'm not going to treat someone better than I treat myself because they're going to feel really good about me and I'm going to feel really bad about me. And I don't want to do that to myself. I have to show myself more care and kindness. And so I have changed that, and not to the point where people get, they come here and they get a horrible experience, but I'm adding myself to that experience. I'm adding myself to the pot of people that I feel like I need to love and take care of, right? So, again, taking care of yourself is not the same as spoiling or overindulging. It's not arrogant. It's not selfish. It's none of those things. Taking a break to eat a healthy meal is not the same as gorging on Oreos. I'm going to not mention Oreos again because obviously I really like them. I mentioned them a lot in the last video. So, this might be easier to just kind of digest if you think about caring for someone else. Like, in my previous example, if you're caring for a child, you don't ignore them when they're hungry, but that doesn't mean you give them an ice cream sundae for breakfast, right? You give them a healthy meal. You respond to their need for hunger. You respond to their need for care. You think about what's best for them and you take care of their needs accordingly. That's it. So, caring for yourself requires a balance between immediate needs and long-term goals. Like, for example, if you've been studying for hours, it's reasonable to take a break. Like, don't have that mental idea in your head that if I take a break, I'm going to fail. I'm not going to do well. And just kind of dogmatically keeping the schedule when you really need a break so that you can relax, so that you can feel better. Just manage your emotions that are probably heightening because you are just nervous about this exam. um at some point you don't need to study anymore, it, right? So sometimes long-term goals will require discomfort, such as, studying or exercising when you'd rather relax on the couch. That's balance, right? That's just not doing too much, right? And not listening to your body or your brain when it says, I've had enough studying, enough exercise. There's no simple answer for how much your discomfort or sacrifice a person should make. It depends on the individual and their goals, right? So if you see another person going hard, but your brain, you're like, if you're exercising with a friend and they're just kind of going hard nonstop, but your body says, okay, I need to stop. I'm going to show myself some compassion in that moment and say, hey, great workout. I'll see you next time. You keep going if you need to. I'll call you later and check on you, but I'm done, right? So it's just a balance to it's a balance for what works for you, and just having awareness of that, and then just kind of calling it a day, right? um Adding some self-care things, right? So taking the day off work to relax, eating healthy meals when you're hungry, exercising regularly, rewarding yourself with a treat when you meet a goal. And let me say that the treat doesn't necessarily have to be food related, because that's a whole other story, but the treat doesn't have to be food related. And so it's just, again, remembering those things, creating balance, not feeling bad because you need a break, showing yourself kindness, compassion, giving yourself grace, and accept that struggle is normal, right? Rather than feeling bad, rather than just feeling uniquely bad, like this isn't happening to other people, this doesn't happen to other people. Struggle is normal. Just like relapse is normal, struggle is normal. So you're going to have some ups and downs, which is why balance is really important, right? And even in balance, you will have ups, you will have down. But the thing about it is, what do I need to do to bring the balance back, right? That's the goal. So when you accept that struggle is normal, right? And you just have to understand that you have a front seat to your own imperfections and mistakes, right? While others can hide their insecurities, you can't hide from yourself. Like, you are having this internal dialogue. You are just almost like you're the one viewer of the theater of your life, like inside of what's going on in your brain. When you feel bad about yourself and when you make a mistake, it might seem like you're the only one, right? Everybody else is perfect. I'm this really horrible human. And so you just have to remember that no one is perfect. Being imperfect is part of being human, right? You are just not going to be perfect. You're not going to do everything right. Everyone has bad days. They lose their temper. They make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes are really big, right? Um, so it's just when you make the mistakes, it's watching what you say to yourself. That critical that critiques is what I'm trying to say. Those negative critiques, those things that just kind of really make you feel bad about yourself. And the way I try to manage those is I always think that if another person came to me and said what I've said to myself, well, or if I said what I say to myself, and let me be clear, I haven't done this since I was very, very young, but I'm just using me as an example. If I were to say those things to that my internal dialogue, if I said those things out loud to another person, it would make them feel horrible. So my rule of thumb is if I wouldn't say it to another person, if I wouldn't say it to a child, if I wouldn't utter those things to anybody I loved, I refuse to say those things to myself. And that really helped me clean up my just kind of negative thinking, my negative thought pattern, because I realize, just kind of through working with clients, that what you say to yourself, it really drives how you see yourself and how you show up in the world, right? So, whatever your struggle is, put it in perspective. Know that it's normal, again, to have flaws, to make mistakes, even if you don't always see them, to see those things in others. Like, no one's going to come up to you and say, "Woo, I made a doozy of a mistake," right? Things that they're embarrassed or ashamed of. People have a tendency to keep those things to themselves. So, it's an unfair comparison if someone is only showing you the good and you're comparing your flaws to all of their good. So just remember that no one is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. It is a part of life. It's part of being a human. It is part of the human process. Everyone feels sad sometimes. It's normal. However, I will say, as a mental health professional, if you feel extremely sad and it's persistent sadness and it's happening over and over again, and you can't bring yourself out of it, that's the time for you to go and speak to a professional. And one of the things you can also say to yourself when it comes to the flaws and just kind of not doing perfect, understand that you are not the first person to make a mistake, and say that to yourself. I'm not the first person to make a mistake. I won't be the last, and this won't be my last mistake, right? Whenever you read, I have no idea why I'm this way, but I'm so obsessed with those ESPN stories, the sports stories. They have like the best documentaries. And so people will talk to you about the mistakes they've made, the failures that they've overcome. Some will even talk about relapses, but those things never define who they are as a person. Michael Jordan was cut from a team. He made some mistakes. Like, I mean, I can't even detail the number of mistakes that him and other athletes have talked about on those documentaries, but they are still great. They are still where they are, of course, still human, still flawed, probably still making mistakes, but they still have a really great highlight reel that we see, right? One of the other things that'll just kind of help you just create some balance and help promote the self compassion is mindfulness activities, right? So, mindfulness is just helping you take a step back from your thoughts and emotions and trying to see things objectively. This is how you see others' thoughts and feelings. You see them logically and from a distance, right? Because it's not happening to you. And so mindfulness is just about creating distance from your own thoughts and feelings to lessen the power they have over you. So stepping outside. Sometimes I have like little conversations with myself about where I am, how I'm feeling, what I need to do, like next steps. I mean, it's so I'm not hearing voices. I'm just talking through things for myself. I just did it this morning on a walk with the dog. Um, so in addition to creating distance and mindfulness, mindfulness will help you become more accepting of your feelings. Right? It's common to think I shouldn't be sad or I shouldn't be angry, but mindfulness lets you acknowledge your feelings without the need to change them. Right? I shouldn't be angry. Um, becomes I'm angry and that's okay, right? And then for me, I would take it a step further. I'm angry because um my feelings were hurt, or I'm disappointed, or something, just for me, add another feeling to that, because angry is a secondary emotion. And as a therapist, I want you to find that primary emotion so that you can then deal with the primary emotion and deal with the trigger, because that's going to be the important thing. Um, mindfulness builds self compassion by creating perspectives and acceptance of your thoughts and feelings. I cannot tell you how true that is, right? This lets you, not true and powerful is what I was trying to say. I can't tell you how powerful it is, right? When you take a walk, it seems like a really simple walk, but having that time alone with your brain, seeing the sights, listening to cars, seeing how green the grass is, looking at the trees, if it's fall, the different colors, seeing all those things, it's just really, it's really a beautiful thing, right? Um, it helps you take control of your life rather than being at the whim of your emotions, right? Mindfulness will help you practice other self compassion habits, like recognizing when you're being judgmental towards yourself, ignoring your needs, and failing, to see your struggles as normal, right? You learn to view your experiences mindfully, and that makes everything else easier. When you take a step back, you can see things more clearly. I love mindfulness exercises because it really does help you see things. It just helps you make sense of things, right? Like I was talking about the walk, but like mindfulness is breathing. I often one of the first things that I do as a therapist when a person comes in and they're highly anxious or really depressed, one of the first things I try to do is put them on a regimen of just mindfulness and relaxation activities. The first and my favorite is the 4-7-8 breathing, right? When you wake up in the morning, you do the 4-7-8 breathing. And then with that 4-7-8 breathing, there's a cycle of 3. So you breathe, right? And then you say, I am okay, or I'm safe, whatever affirmation or whatever encouragement you can say to yourself. And I'm often telling them to touch a part of themselves. So whether it's hand on heart or hand on belly or hand on both, at the same time you breathe, you tell yourself, I am okay, I am safe. I am not hurt, whatever it is you can, again, to say, to affirm yourself. I suggest that because it is very, very healing to hear yourself say those things. And what I'm hoping is eventually this person will have what's called a cathartic release. And just that those emotional wounds that have just kind of been down there and you haven't paid attention to them, you've ignored them because they're too hard. A release will come and you'll start to feel better. And that's when your compassion for yourself grows and you're able to say, I'm worthy to be taken care of, right? Imagine saying to yourself, I'm worthy to be taken care of. I'm worthy to be loved. I'm worthy to be seen. I am worthy. And just even saying that I am worthy over and over again, eventually you will hear that, and eventually you'll start treating yourself like you are worthy of all of those things that you have named. Um, Okay. So to wrapping the video up, I do want to say that as a disclaimer, practicing self-compassion, it isn't an easy thing. So everything I discussed in the video sounds like it's easy and maybe you can do it overnight, but I do want to just, alert you that it's a process, right? So you're not going to feel better overnight. So the thing about it is just really acknowledge that you have flaws, but don't make the flaws the focus of who you are as a person, right? So I often use the example of we're going to take a person, a traumatized kid. Like if you live in a home with an abuser, more than likely you're going to pick up the protective behavior of lying, right? I'm going to lie so that I won't get hurt, right? This is the best thing for me to do. So I'm going to lie and accommodate in some way so this person doesn't hurt me, right? So eventually lying becomes a habit because you understand you're not going to get hurt. Things may go your way. You're just learning that this protective behavior will help you in some way. And sometimes, like, say, if you're out of that environment, sometimes it's hard to stop it, right? And it just becomes this thing. Well, you don't want to as you get older and you notice that you're continuing to lie, you don't want to call yourself a liar. You're not a liar per se, and this is just in context. You're not a liar per se. What you've learned is a protective behavior that help you stay safe, right? Then you learned that this protective behavior not only made you stay safe, but sometimes you got things you wanted, and it was just easier to tell the lie than to tell the whole truth. That is a learned thing. And so you just have to unlearn it, and don't identify yourself again as a liar, because it's going to make it harder for you to show yourself compassion and change the behavior because you've already deemed yourself as a liar. And so if I'm a liar, that means I'm a bad person. I should feel bad about who I am. Then the guilt shame cycles, and it turns into this it spirals out of control. It just turns into this thing that you just didn't mean it to be. And so what I'm saying, instead of identifying yourself as a liar, just understand that this was a protective behavior I used as a child, and I've used throughout my adulthood. I no longer need it. So I'm going to say to myself compassionately, I am not a liar, and I am going to work on reducing this behavior. And it's slowly but surely reducing the behavior. So if you lie to someone and you it'll be embarrassing sometimes, you can go back and say, you know what, that wasn't the full truth. Here's the truth. Or you can catch yourself before you tell the lie. If that step is too big for you, catch yourself before you tell the lie. Have an internal conversation. And why are you about to tell that lie? Don't tell that lie. Tell the truth. Or just say, I don't know if I'm comfortable talking about that thing in this moment, so that you won't lie to that person, and then have a full conversation when you're ready. So again, don't focus on your flaws. Set realistic goals, and don't worry about perfection. Just do the best you can. And after a lifetime of just kind of self judgment, just understand that it is a difficult habit to break. Right? It becomes automatic, but you have to practice compassion. You have to practice kindness and practice caring towards yourself. Alrighty. Well, thank you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully this was helpful. Have a good day.